Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Candidate Forum 2018. Along with Lake City Reporter-Editor Robert Bridges, I'm Mike McKee. For the next 90 minutes, we will hear the candidates running for Florida House of Representatives District 10 in the Republican primary and the candidates for Lake City City Council. This program is a production of the Lake City Columbia County Chamber of Commerce Government Relations Committee and is co-sponsored by the Lake City Reporter, Florida Gateway College, Sonny's Barbecue, and Moe's Southwestern Grill. The rules for tonight's forum are that each candidate will be given 2 minutes to make an opening statement, 2 minutes to make a closing statement, and each candidate is afforded 2 minutes to answer each question. Every candidate on the August primary ballot was invited and given an opportunity to appear tonight. Those appearing on the November general election ballot will be invited during the next round of forums in October, as we have done for the past 36 years. We begin our first forum of the candidate forum with the House of Representatives District 10, Republican. Incumbent Elizabeth Porter cannot run due to term limits, so we will have a new state representative in Tallahassee this fall. We have with us Robert C. Chuck Brannon and Mark Vann. We drew numbers before coming on the show tonight, and Mr. Brannon drew the number 1. He will make the first opening statement. Mr. Brannon, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of Columbia County.
Thank you, Mike. It's certainly my pleasure to be here tonight, and I appreciate the Chamber, the Reporter, and the college having us on campus for this forum tonight. I am a 7th generation Floridian, a lifelong resident of this district, and I have spent almost 30 years in law enforcement with both the United States Marshal Service and the Baker County Sheriff's Office. And I see my candidacy as a continuation of the public service that has always meant so much in my life. A long law enforcement career will teach you a lot of things about people and human nature. You see the best in people, the worst in people, folks in their most tragic family circumstances. But I tell you what, it'll teach you, especially a long police career, and that's something a lot of folks don't get to learn because they don't get to deal with folks on the situations that we deal with. But it teaches you compassion for people, and I think that's an important quality of leadership. I've spent 16 years on the Board of Trustees here at the college. In fact, I was chairman of the board when this building was built that we're sitting in tonight. Probably the first such construction on this campus in some 20 years. I had the pleasure of giving the dedication speech and cutting the ribbon here. The counties we're running in are Baker, Columbia, Suwannee, Hamilton, and part of northwestern Alachua County. My father is from Suwannee County, born and raised in Live Oak. My mother is from Hamilton County, born and raised in White Springs. And my dad got on the Florida Highway Patrol in 1961 after my mom and dad married, and the Highway Patrol sent my father to McClenny. So myself and my brother and sister were born over in Baker County. And I think that gives me roots. It certainly gives me a footprint in the communities and the counties that we're running in. I see my candidacy as I said, a continuation of the public service that's always meant so much to me. And we can all make our communities a better place to live and work. That's why I'm running for public office.
Thank you very much. Time now for candidate Vann to make his 2-minute opening remarks.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come this evening. 40 years ago, I came home from college to a business that was started in downtown Lake City in 1947. Our family's been in the retail business. Today, we have a floor covering store, brown van, carpet. But going way back over 100 years, my grandfather started our first business in Madison County, Florida. My dad's father over there. And all we have known our whole lives is working for a living. We believe that our community is a wonderful community. When this journey started for me a year ago, it was when Representative Elizabeth Porter one day called me up and said, "Would you like to go to lunch?" And we went to lunch, and 5 minutes into that conversation, Elizabeth says, "I think you need to run for my seat." She says, "And I would like to endorse you if you do." That was really a kind of a flip for me. All we've done is work 39 years this summer. Again, the mindset being that we give to our community by the things we do. Starting back 35 years ago when I was 25 is when I started serving on our first board. I served on the building and zoning. In those years since, the Chamber of Commerce. I've served 10 years on the Economic Development Board. I've served on the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board. While there, We lowered our millage dollars on indigent care from almost $3.5 million to a little over $1 million a year that we tax the people of Columbia County. I believe that as a businessman, I understand how money should be spent. I believe that I can go to Tallahassee and be a person that will be to go up there and spend your money wisely. And I would just appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for the question and answer segment of the broadcast. And to ask the questions, as he did last night, is editor of the Lake City Reporter, Mr. Robert Bridges. Robert?
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Brandon, we start with you. The incumbent in this district was operating during her final session with 8 years seniority, and now, because of term limits, we're back to square one. Is it realistic to think you'll be able to accomplish anything of significance during your first term as a freshman legislator?
Absolutely. I have spent a lifetime building relationships. I was fortunate right out of high school as just a kid, as an 18-year-old kid. I was elected as a state FFA, Future Farmers of America officer, and I worked for Florida Farm Bureau. And if you could believe that Florida Farm Bureau would get an 18-year-old kid a company car, and I traveled the state and visited all 67 counties. So I started preparing myself years ago, and that was where the seed was planted. I also was a liaison to the Commissioner of Agriculture at that time, the longtime Commissioner Doyle Connor, and the seed was planted in my head that one day I wanted to maybe run for public office. But I chose a career in law enforcement, and I completed that career. But Mr. Van mentioned that he was endorsed by Ms. Porter. I have spent the last year cultivating relationships with folks that are going to be in Tallahassee when I get there, folks to the east of us like State Representative Cord Bird, the Appropriations Committee Chairman Travis Cummings from Orange Park, and to the south of us, my fraternity brother Chuck Clemens, who represents western Alachua, Dixie, and Gilchrist counties. So I've spent a lifetime preparing for that. And you know, the legislature can be a collegial body. It's all about relationships with people and working together. And we don't profess to know everything, but we'll learn. That's why you're there. That's why they have hearings. That's why they have people testify. And I'll always listen to my constituents, because that's who we work for, are the people, the constituents that elected us, and we'll represent them as best we can.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Van, same question. How realistic is it to get anything of real significance done as a freshman in Tallahassee?
Well, I think the realism is that you go over there and you learn. You have to listen. You have to establish relationships. You have to become the kind of person that people will listen to over there, just like they listen to me in our community. We have to be the kind of people that can be straightforward. We have to go over there and with a knowledge that says, I want to learn, I have the ability to learn. My business background goes over there and says, I understand taxes, I understand how to spend money. I think that I will go over there with the mindset that under all circumstances, I'm going to represent the people, and the people in Tallahassee already have that mindset. With our true Republican leadership that's over there now, their job, their goal for the last number of years has been to attempt to save the taxpayers of Florida. And my goal in doing that will be the same thing, to save as much money as absolutely possible. The idea being that when we get there, we want to do what is best for our community. We want to be able to. Ms. Porter has absolutely set some standards that we want to continue with. Her work that she's done on our water issues, the work that she's done right here at the college, with the things that have gone forward for our trade academies that are taking place here even as we speak. And I think that that's a significant part of the fortunate issues that I will be dealing with, is the mindset that I can continue a job that she has done while at the same time being my own person. I understand business. I understand budgets. We own a business downtown that is continuing to invest in our community. We have just bought property downtown, and we are creating new jobs. And I think as a Republican legislator, our main focus is to do what we can in our community to determine how to create new jobs.
Thank you, sir. We'll stick with you for the next question. How can the state better allocate economic development funds for rural counties such as ours?
I think the mindset is that every county should be given the same consideration, not based on the population, not based on the number of people. In the last year, Columbia County has been fortunate enough to get approximately $3.5 million to finally put a rail spur into our what used to be referred to as a RACIC site, but our industrial development site that is just east of the college right here on US 90. In the same cycle, Suwannee County got almost $3.5 million to put a brand new infrastructure in at County Road 136 and I-75 to help develop their community. I think that is the point, is that as rural legislatures, we have to bond together so that we can in turn have enough influence to make sure that we get the same consideration that some of our big neighbors down south get. And I believe absolutely that by working with our brothers in the legislature across North Florida, that we can establish a consortium that says we are important, we deserve money, we deserve help, and that there's absolutely no reason why North Florida can't get its share of funding so that we can continue to grow our communities. You know, it's a big deal in North Florida to receive money. I tell them, when you live in an area where there's more pine trees than there are people, sometimes we get lost in the shuffle, and our friends from down the state tend to believe that North Florida is just kind of setting over to the side and we kind of get what's left. I think the important part to play in that is to go up there and let people know that we are significant and that we are using the money wisely and that we're going to continue doing everything possible, again, to allow our community to grow and be successful.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brannon, same question. How could Tallahassee do a better job, assuming we agree they need to do a better job at allocating economic development funds for rural counties?
Well, once again, it's about building relationships. Just like here at the college, we have to fight for money. That's how we built this building. As a young man, I was on the Baker County Fair Association, and I went to Tallahassee, and we were at our livestock fair showing cattle under tents, and the fair was just spending, and the county was spending money renting tents every year. So I went to Tallahassee and walked the halls as a 26-year-old kid and learned about the process and how to work the legislators. In fact, the legislator that helped me the most at that time was Randy Mackey, who was the state legislator from here. But when we talk about money for the communities, it's about all types of, all facets of the community, whether it be the counties or the cities or even the college here. And that comes down to things like workforce development. We try to do that here. I'm very familiar with the project to the east of the college here that's very important to it. And we try to customize our programs so that we're ready for that. Everybody's not meant to go to college or a four-year university. There are plenty of good technical and vocational programs in the community colleges, which we call state colleges now. And we need to fight for more funding for that, especially in the rural areas, because it's hard for someone who wants to go back to college to go out and do that. It's better to go to a local college like here at Lake City, and those dollars mostly come from the state. Tuition doesn't nearly cover what we need. So I'm going to be full-time. That's all I'm going to do. I'll be full-time in Tallahassee, fighting for you and fighting for those dollars. And we do need to build relationships and coalitions in North Florida, but all over the state. We need to have a collegial relationship with our legislators in South Florida, in Central Florida. And that's how we capture the dollars for our part of the state. We've got good folks in the legislature now, in both the Senate and the House, and I want to go to work on day one along with those folks.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Brannon, are there specific committee assignments that you would particularly prefer?
Yes, sir. Because of my background, I would ask to be on the Agriculture Committee. I would like to be on the Commerce Committee and the Education Committee. I grew up on a farm, learned to appreciate the rural lifestyle at an early age. My dad was in the poultry business. We grew corn, hay, and cattle. I continue to raise cattle to this day. I don't think there's been a day in my life that there hasn't been a cow in my life. So I understand the agriculture community. I've traveled the state this last year as I've been running, trying to learn about the problems. You know, the legislature affects our lives no matter where we are and no matter who we elect from whatever district, from everything from how crowded our roads are to the amount of taxes we pay. And of course, commerce is important because of bringing jobs to the community and workforce development, as I mentioned, and creating jobs and good jobs and clean jobs. But you know what the best thing for Florida is? What our best calling card is? And that's to keep our state clean and to keep our fiscal house in order. Florida is one of the most fiscally solvent states in the country, and as a Commerce Committee member, I think I could contribute to that. My other life's interest has been in education. My deceased wife was a school teacher and a school principal for 21 years. And when your wife's a teacher, your life revolves around the school system. So you understand the K-12 school system. But I've been fortunate to be appointed 5 times by 3 different governors to both the Lake City Community College and the Florida Gateway College Board of Trustees. So I have a footprint in higher education too. So the committees that I would request are the Agriculture, the Commerce, and the Education Committee.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Van, same question. What committee assignments would you like if you could pick?
Well, as Chuck just stated, those 3 committees, Commerce, Agriculture, and Education, are absolutely the 3 most important to our communities here in North Florida. I go a little different direction. Economic development has been my background as I have served on boards throughout our community. Again, from a business background that goes back to 1979 when I came home. I have spent 39 years growing a business in Columbia County, growing a business that serves all over North Florida. And while doing that, we continue to grow, we continue to create new jobs. We also understand, again, the importance of jobs to our community. I think it's so important to remember that jobs bring people back. And consequently, when you get to Tallahassee, we want to remember that we want to be able to push hard, while at the same time, I serve on the board of Trevecca Nazarene University in Nashville, Tennessee. 3,500 undergraduates with approximately a $60 million budget. I am on the finance committee there, along with operating a business here in Lake City. We have understand, again, the necessity of watching our dollars. We understand the fact that every dollar that gets spent by government came out of somebody's back pocket. Tax money doesn't become money that someone else just has. It is money that someone earned. And I think as part of those committees, we need to remember that. We know that agriculture cumulatively is the largest employer in North Florida, the single biggest business in North Florida. If you're a farmer, you run a business. You're not just a farmer, you're a man that has to buy equipment. You're a man that buys inventory. You have to sell it. And I think in all of those things, we remember that how we manage our money is first and foremost in being successful.
Thank you. Mr. Van, in very specific terms, what needs to be done to continue our work to preserve, protect, and defend the sanctity of our springs and freshwater resources?
Very good question. I am very interested in water. As I said, I think the 2 biggest builders in the Florida economy is keeping our state clean and keeping our fiscal house in order. People come to Florida because of our natural beauty and our natural resources, our springs, our lakes, our rivers. That's our best calling card. We have to protect that first. In fact, I thought so much of it that I took some time off the campaign trail just a month or so back, and I went to South Florida because all the water issues affect all of us. I always live by the rule that water should be decided locally first. I don't want someone in South Florida stealing our water from North Florida. It should be sourced locally first. But I want to see the problem because down in there, in that part of the state, and this relates to the agriculture industry too, and my interest in farming, as I've always had, in the Lake Okeechobee area, in the Everglades agricultural area, and the problems they had with the algae blooms. And I wanted to see firsthand what really was causing that problem. And I got a lot of insight into my trip down there and learned a lot about that area and the population growth and the agricultural community and the cattle ranches and the golf courses and all the things that contribute to that. But we have got to teach people to be better stewards of the land. Farmers are our best stewards of the land. Florida Farm Bureau has an excellent program called the CARES program that encourages farmers to use best management practices. And I've always known that farmers were the best steward of the land, but we need to teach other folks that too. Farmers have to be good stewards of the land or they'll go out of business. That's just a fact. But we need to teach people about how to properly dispose of their pesticides and their chemicals. And around these spring areas, at some point, if we can get some state money, we need to get folks off of septic tanks and onto urban-type sewage systems so we don't have that runoff of the nitrates and the nutrients into our springs and our water. Very, very important category to talk about tonight.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Van, same question. What do we need to do in very specific terms to preserve our freshwater resources?
Well, kind of, when you think about water, I go back to 47 years ago when I literally walked from Lake City at 13 years of age, along with 2 buddies and Boy Scouts, to the headwaters of the Itchtuckney Springs so that we could get our hiking merit badge. You had to have a 20-mile badge before you could qualify as an Eagle Scout. And at 15, Principal Morris Williams at Lake City Junior High gave me my Eagle Scout badge. So literally grew up all over these woods. Learned how to ski in Ocean Pond. Raised my kids on the Swanee River. We love our water. We have the largest number of first grade magnitude springs in the world in North Florida. They provide an economy for us that no one else has in the state of Florida. And therefore, when the state turned around and bought the top half of the headwaters of the Itchtuckney River, they saved it. At the same time, we have to remember that water is here not just to save, but to use and utilize in fashions that help us and help our community. A farmer uses water. A lot of people are yelling about agriculture right now. A farmer doesn't turn on a center pivot and run irrigation because he wants to. He does it so he can feed us. Farmers feed us and they feed the world, and they have to be taken care of. Subsequently, we need to remember also that as part of the $50 million water bill that was passed 2 years ago and has brought tremendous relief to North Florida, we now are kind of in the throes of an issue with septic tanks. A third of Columbia County, half of Swanee County are now under regulations that are going to say you have to put in a special septic tank that is going to cost $12,000 to $15,000. We need to remember that rules need to work together to take care of everybody.
Thank you, sir. We'll stick with you, Mr. Vann, for the next question. What are the 3 most pressing issues for District 10 in your mind?
I think the main issue for District 10 is absolutely growing our economy so that our grandchildren can come back to North Florida and see the fact that they are able to have a successful lifestyle. You know, in 1975, when I went off to college, my idea was I couldn't make a living here. I was going to go do something else. Been fortunate enough now that over the last few years, all 4 of mine and Sherry's children have come back. We have therapists, we have businessmen, we have veterinary doctors. They've all seen the lifestyle of North Florida and have decided that's where they want to raise their kids. So I think unequivocally providing for the future, where 20 years down the road, our grandchildren want to come back, is absolutely important. I think in doing that, again, we have to remember that we have to protect our agriculture. We have to protect our farmers because they take care of us. I believe without a doubt that we remember that they are the reason we're here today. They are the ones that grow our food. And in doing so, we're back to talking about the very water issue that was mentioned in the last question. We understand that water is the lifeblood of Florida. We understand that there's been lots of rumors through the years about what's going to happen to our water, where it's going to go. And our legislators over the last number of years have done a great job of coming forward and separating our districts and making them work together and helping establish flows that are starting now to have springs recover and have springs take care of themselves. So I want to think that in all of these issues, though, that we want to remember that providing a lifestyle for the future families that come to Florida is absolutely the single most significant issue that we're dealing with.
Thank you, Mr. Brannon. What are your big 3?
Jobs, infrastructure to get more jobs, and protecting our precious natural resources. We all want to be able to stay in our communities. We have good jobs here, but it's always not industry. We have good state jobs in our area. We have the prison system, and I want to be an advocate for those folks. In my community in Baker County, we have Northeast Florida State Hospital that oftentimes they try to close, and I want to be an advocate for those state employees and stand up for them. But in communities like Lake City, especially here on the hub of I-10 and I-75, it's an infrastructure issue. So if we can bring dollars back to this part of the state and get the infrastructure in place, then we can bring industry here, good, clean industry. I think lots of times jobs and industry goes past this part of the state. They go to Gainesville and they go to Ocala. But we're positioned here in the best position here. as a central hub to the whole southeastern United States because of our location. The other thing comes back once again to the environment and keeping our water and our springs clear and clean. And like I say, that's as I said before, our best calling card. Florida, people want to come to Florida because of our environment and our climate. And we can't do a whole lot about the climate, but we can keep the environment and the springs clean. I thought about passing a bill. Maybe we could do something about the environment. Maybe I'll pass a bill to lower the humidity. I wish we could do something about that. But then we'd have thousands more people coming to Florida every day, so that probably wouldn't be a great idea. So jobs, infrastructure, and keeping the quality of life in our state the way it is, the way Mark and I grew up, so that our children and our grandchildren can live that and enjoy that. My granddaddy had a farm on the Swanee River out from O'Brien, and he actually owned one of those springs. I rode by there the other day, so my roots run deep in this district, and I'll do everything I can to keep our state just like it is and in good shape for our future children and grandchildren.
Thank you for those answers, gentlemen. It's time for question and answers to be over, and it's time for candidates to make closing statements. We started with Mr. Brannon. He will go last. Mr. Van, you have the first opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement to the voters of North Florida.
Well, about 3 weeks ago, article came out in the Lake City Reporter. And I've got it here, and it was on July the 10th. 2 articles. One says Trump makes his wishes known, and Mr. Brannon gets his NRA endorsement, which is significant. I want to say that, there's no question. But when you open the inside of this same article up, Mr. Bridges, it says among his current endorsements, along with the NRA, are approximately 10 labor unions. And right dead in the middle it says the Florida AFL-CIO, the North Central Florida Labor Council, and the North Florida Central Labor Council, along with several other labor unions. Over the last couple of weeks, the people that helped me in Tallahassee have sent out some flyers which they describe as comparative, the mindset being that Chuck and I have separation. Separation is very simply, over the last several weeks, as I have received endorsements from the Florida Chamber, the Florida Retail Federation, the Florida Home Builders Association, the Florida Real Estate, and the National Federation of Independent Businesses, Mr. Brannon has received a number of endorsements from groups like the AFL-CIO, which are a group that gave $6 million to Hillary Clinton. When he mentioned about his friend Chuck Clemens a few minutes ago, he's also got the endorsement of the North Central Florida Labor Council, which has endorsed Bill Nelson for Senate over Scott, and it endorsed a Democrat candidate over his friend Chuck Clemens, who is in Gainesville even as we speak. I think the big thing to remember is I am the true conservative Republican business candidate, not the labor candidate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And the last closing comments to candidate Brannon.
Thank you, Mark. So I can address this. I got the endorsement of the Fraternal Order of Police. That's a union. I got the endorsement of the Police Benevolent Association. That's a union. I got the endorsement of the Florida Professional Firefighters. They're a union. And if I recall correctly, when I went to interview with the FOP, Mr. Van came in right after me. So he was trying to get that endorsement too, but they chose me. The PBA endorsed me the other day. Mr. Van tried to get the PBA's endorsement. That's a union, but they endorsed me. I also got those firefighters. And you know what? Firefighters and police and PBA are correctional officers. And those are some of the most conservative people I know. You refer to Chuck Clemens. He's one of the most conservative people I know and is an advocate for agriculture and all these things you've talked about today. But once you get those endorsements from those core groups that Mr. Van tried to get, but I got, and he mentioned the NRA, and let's make that clear, I'm the only candidate in this race endorsed by the National Rifle Association, the only candidate to receive an A rating. And in fact, they sent a little card out the other day, a fluorescent orange card if you're an NRA member, and it says very clearly, Chuck Brannon is the only candidate endorsed, and Chuck Brannon is the only candidate we can trust to keep his word when it comes to standing up and fighting for the Second Amendment. Mr. Van tried to get that endorsement too. We both went for an interview with the Association of Professional Lobbyists. The National Rifle Association had someone from Florida there and 2 people from Washington, D.C. And when they vetted us and checked our records and our stances, they chose Chuck Brannon. The firefighters, once they endorsed me, they are under the umbrella of the AFL-CIO. And you know what they do when they endorse you? Firefighters are all in because they fight for you. They don't only fight fires, they fight for people that they think will support police and firefighters and correctional officers, which we have a lot of it and are very conservative. And they reach out to these other unions and ask them to help because they say, we firefighters want Chuck Brannon. Hey, you other guys under this umbrella. That doesn't make me liberal. That just means I got endorsements that he tried to get and didn't succeed at getting.
Thank you very much. That concludes the first segment of our candidate forum. When we come back on Florida Gateway College Television, we'll meet the candidates for Lake City City Council District 10. You're watching Candidate Forums on Florida Gateway College Television. Don't go away. Welcome back to Candidate Forum 2018. Along with the editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges, I'm Mike McKee. Our second segment will be with the candidates for Lake City City Council District 10. The incumbent is Eugene Jefferson. The challenger is Vanessa George. We drew numbers before they came on the set this afternoon, and Mr. Jefferson drew number 1. He will make the first opening 2-minute remark to the voters of Lake City. Mr. Jefferson.
Thank you, Lake City Reporter, Lake City, Columbia County Chamber of Commerce, and the Florida Gateway College. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Eugene Jefferson, and I am the incumbent sitting city councilman for District 10, Lake City, Florida. I'm a resident of Columbia County. I moved to Lake City in 1981 from Baker County, where I attended the public schools. After attending public school there, I attended Florida A&M University, graduated from Florida A&M University, moving to Florida State University, where I received a master's degree in social sciences. I'm employed with the state of Florida for a period of 37 years, retiring in 2013. I'm married for 37 years to the Betty Wilson Jefferson, and together we have 2 children. Attend church at Trinity United Methodist Church, and I retired from the Florida State Department of Corrections after 37 years working in the field of social services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And now it's time for an opening statement from candidate George. Ms. George, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening. Thank you, Florida Gateway College, the Lake City Reporter, and the Lake City Chamber of Commerce. My name is Vanessa George, and I am asking for your vote for City Council District 10. I am a Lake City native. I was educated in Columbia County Public Schools and attended Lake City Community College, now Florida Gateway College. I went on to Florida State University, where I acquired 2 bachelor degrees, one in political science and the other in criminology. I also have a master's degree from American Public University in American history. I am very active in our community. I am a 7-year board member with Habitat for Humanities, Animatics Park, PTA, Passion Through Action. I am also an active member in our community by volunteering. I volunteer with Richardson Community Center and Lollipop Child Care Center. I am a local business owner. I am a 10-year teacher and a 13-year licensed professional realtor. Again, I ask for your vote for City Council District 10.
Thank you very much. Time now for questions and answers. And as he did in the first segment and last night as well, we give you now editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges. Robert?
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Jefferson, we start with you. Sir, what are your thoughts on the current level of taxes and fees imposed on residents of the city? Is there a specific area of the city budget that could be trimmed in order to reduce that burden?
I can't identify any area of our budget that can be trimmed. Our budget, we're in the budgetary process now, and we have did some trimming of our budget, and our budget is going to be very slim this fiscal year. We are very proactive in observing our budget and making sure that we try to not place any extra undue burdens on our citizens. So in view of the budgetary process thus far, there is no overgrowth in our budget, I would say.
Very well, thank you, sir. Ms. George, same question. Are there areas of the budget that could be cut to reduce the burden of taxes and fees on city residents?
I also attended that budget meeting that they had today, and I think that there's always room for improvement. We can always go back and review those fire assessments and the stormwater fees. We can always go back and review the budget and find out if there's anything that we can cut. I am for looking into the budget and seeing what we can do to alleviate some of the taxes on our citizens.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll stick with you for the next question, Ms. George. What should be done with the City Hall building, which, depending on the degree of decrepitude, which we'll know soon, I gather, based on the study that's ongoing, could cost more to repair than it's worth? What's the answer to that?
Well, I think we really can't answer that until the study is conducted and we find out what is the actual cost. Is it beneficial for us to stay in the building because we own the building, or is it economically, makes economic sense to move into another building? But we cannot make that decision until we get those numbers back from the study.
Okay, Mr. Jefferson, same question.
I don't think we can make a determination just at this time because we're waiting for additional studies, additional information that will help us reach that final decision. My concern is what would be in the best interest of our citizen economically or financially, but we don't know exactly what those costs would be without getting the appropriate studies done on the building to determine what the deficiencies are and what is going to be the financial burden upon the city to rectify that.
Thank you, sir. We'll stick with you for the next question, sir. Panhandling, especially along US 90, continues to be a concern for many residents. What, if anything, can or should be done to remedy this matter?
Panhandling has came up occasionally, and I personally see panhandling along the residential area as well as the business community. And that is a very delicate issue to deal with. As far as the business is concerned, when they becomes a nuisance to the business or encroach on businesses or individuals' property, they have an option to get law enforcement involved, and they can remedy that situation from them encroaching upon their personal property. But it becomes kind of delicate when they are on public property or on the sidewalks, as long as they are not creating any crime getting involved in any criminal activity. But it is seems to be a growing problem, and more so in certain areas.
Thank you, sir. Ms. George, what's your take on panhandling?
Well, I think the main thing we need to do, we need to find out, we need to get to the root of the problem of panhandling. We need to find out why Lake City is attracting so many panhandlers. And if it is a cause of something like homelessness, we need to find other solutions to combat homelessness and economic growth where we can provide jobs, help people, you know, provide for themselves. So we need to find out why panhandling has grown so much in our community, and then we'll be able to address that.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to stick with you for the next question, Ms. George. Ms. George, your boyfriend, who appears to be a very close political advisor to you during this campaign, addressed the city council at a meeting some months back and said they should hold off on hiring a new city manager. Depending on who gets elected in this race, council might have to fire him and pick their own. Was he speaking on your behalf?
Nobody speaks on my behalf. I'm the only one that can speak for Vanessa George. I am unbossed and unbrought. I speak for myself. I have no problem being my own voice.
Very well, thank you. Mr. Jefferson, previous elections in District 10, most notably the 2010 race, have been marred by scandal or the hint of scandal. Will this race be free of that taint?
Well, I can't make that prediction. It will be free of it on behalf of myself. I can't make that prediction of what others would do or what the public. I certainly hope that it will be free of any kind of a taint or any kind of illegal activities for that matter. But I can't make that prediction in terms of what would happen, you know, in the future.
Okay, Mr. Jefferson, we'll stick with you for this question. Is there needless duplication of services between city and county agencies? And how, if at all, should that matter be addressed?
Well, Yes, you can say that depending on what you're referring to as duplicating services. There's law enforcement in both the city and the county. There's fire services both in the city and the county. There are also some services that the city provides that the county does not provide, such as utility services. There is, key services, utility infrastructure services that the city provides. The county does not provide those services, but there are some duplicated services, but whether there's a need for combining or consolidating those services, I think that is something, I'm not opposed to looking at that, but there is, some issues that I think that you really would have to research and see whether or not it would be an advantage either way for the city or the county to consider consolidation.
Thank you, sir. Ms. George, same question. Is there needless duplication of services between city and county agencies?
I don't believe that there are needless duplication of services. I believe that all the services that the county provides and the city provides are needed. Now, like Mr. Jefferson stated before, the city does provide utilities that the county does not. But as far as needless, no, I don't believe in consolidation. I believe in collaboration, like collaborating on utilities with the county. But I don't believe that there's a duplication of needless services.
Okay, let's stick with you, Ms. George, and let's elaborate on that question. There seems to have been a little bit of a thaw in recent months between city and county officials, particularly with this ongoing collaboration with the proposed East Side utilities plant. Is that a sign of something to come? Is that a relationship that can be cultivated, or is just a one-off deal?
Absolutely, I believe it's a relationship that can be cultivated. I believe that with new leadership, we can cultivate and foster the growth of the city and the county coming together to foster certain collaborations such as utilities. The infrastructure needs to be in place for us to have economic growth. If we don't have those utilities when companies come a knocking, then we're not going to be shovel ready. So I think the new leadership coming in is a great start with the city and the county working together.
Mr. Jefferson, as the incumbent, how does it look to you? Is this just the sort of thing that's happened once in a while, or is this something that seems significantly different, the degree of apparent willingness to cooperate between city and county officials on, say, utilities?
Well, I look at it on the basis of need. I think it's needed, and I think it's a great move between both entities to work together jointly to try and make this happen. Because if it does, I think it would enhance growth in both communities, the city as well as the county. And it certainly, I feel that it will enhance our tax base. This working relationship, I think it's just a start, and I don't think that the city and the county has worked on many projects before in the past, so I don't think that the relationship working between the city and the county is bad, I think, as the media portray it to be at some point. We have worked on many projects together, but this maybe is sort of unique, and there's a need for this because the current facilities that the city has now can only accommodate so much. And so if we want to expand growth, we need to go outside the box, so to speak. We need additional facilities. And for this county to want to join with the city and the city join with the county to make that happen, and the end results will be an improvement in the growth and the quality of lives of our citizens, I'm all on board with it.
Thank you. Ms. George, this question goes to you. The Blanche Hotel project is old news and current news at the same time. Many people who opposed it previously now say it's got to work simply because the city's invested so much of our tax money in it. Did you support the project originally, and do you support it now?
Originally, I did not support the Blanche Hotel project. I think it's a burden to our citizens. However, because we've invested into it, we must all support it and hope that it becomes successful, short of giving it any more money.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jefferson, you voted no on the Blanche. Do you support it now?
I voted no on the Blanche because in the view of the majority of the constituents that I represent, they said no. And I felt that my vote should reflect the will of the people, because those are the people that I represent, and those are the people that place me in office. However, in view of that, I do feel that there are some positive things that the Blanche will bring to our community. Number one, it would increase our tax base. Number two, it will bring jobs to our community. It will give some family a job and a better quality of life. And that's what we are all about in Columbia County and in Lake City, is trying to enhance the quality of life of our citizens. There are some that were, and I agree, there were some that was against it before, and some that now saying that they feel that it's a good thing. But I feel that it has some positive that will bring back to our community. And with that facility comes to fruition, I think you will see other businesses surrounded as well in our downtown area.
Well, yeah, to clarify, there are a lot of people whose mindset hasn't changed at all. It's just that it's a reality now, and you could argue we don't have a choice. Mr. Jefferson, we'll stick with you. When you go door to door, what's the biggest concern, complaint, concern, however you want to phrase it, among the residents you meet?
Well, one of the primary concerns, especially in my district, is stormwater, is water and flooding issues. That's one of the primary issues. Another issue is jobs in our community. They said that there's not a lack of, and that is a concern. Another problem, another issue that they raise is our aging infrastructure, which is breaking down. Those are the primary things: is a stormwater, jobs, a lack of, and our aging infrastructure.
Thank you, sir. Ms. George, same question for you. When you go door to door, what do you hear?
When speaking with people in the community and going door to door, people are having problems with the drainage. They want these abandoned houses torn down, these overgrown lots taken care of. We have poor lighting in our community. People that's trying to walk to the store back and forth, you know, the lighting is very poor. It's a safety hazard. We also have, we want economic growth in our community, and people are asking for jobs, better paying jobs.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll stick with you. This will be the last question of this session. Ms. George, what's your vision for Lake City, say 10 years from now? What do you want the city to look like then? And what do we need to start doing now in order to realize that vision?
My vision for Lake City is to look like any other district in our community. Lake City is a beautiful place to live, and District 10 should reflect that. I would like to drive down the street without having to go on the opposite side of the road. I want to avoid, I want to get rid of the potholes, minimize potholes, fix our roads, fix our drainage systems. We need to get retention and detention ponds. That's why newer neighborhoods have those, for a reason, to control the flow of water, prevent flooding. I would love to see District 10 look like any other district. District 10 needs to reflect how beautiful Lake City is. District 10, I would love to go down the street, be able to walk, and if I exercise and I get caught at sunset, I would like to have proper lighting, just like people who are walking or riding bicycles in our community for transportation. We need that lighting. I would love to see Lake City treat District 10 just like it was of the upper echelon of any other community in our city.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Jefferson, last response to this session. What's your vision for District 10, say a decade from now?
I would like to see District 10, 10 years from now, as a multiple strong growth when it comes to jobs and businesses that will provide jobs for us. And that is one reason I'm a strong advocate of bringing businesses and jobs to our community. And that may involve incentivizing. I'm in favor of incentivizing businesses to get them to come into our districts. But my opponent mentioned about lighting in District 10. I'm not aware of any lighting problems in District 10. No one has never mentioned to me any lighting problem. But I do feel that we as citizens, if there is an issue, if there's a lack of, if there's a pothole, I have an obligation as a citizen to report it as opposed to, complaining about it. I need to report that. If there's a light out, we have an obligation as a citizen to simply report it and get it fixed. But I reported many of them personally myself. If I see a light out, I personally report it. And before I became a council member, if I saw those things, I had an obligation, I felt, as a citizen to report those things so that they can be repaired.
As a resident
But-
of District 10 and driving down
But
District 10.
you let Mr. Jefferson finish.
But I just want to report a few things. There are some numbers here, if you will. And this reflects the first 6-month period of this fiscal year through our Public Works Department. There has been reports that nothing has been done, no money is being spent in certain districts, including District 10. But in District 10, just for the first 6 months of that period, the budget that we are in now, through our Public Works Department, $78,145 was spent. District 12, $43,258. District 13, $68,800. District 14, $23,100. If you will notice those,
We're going to cut you off. Your time is up. We're finished with our question and answers part of the program. It's now time to make closing statements from each. And now's the opportunity. If you do want to say something in rebuttal during the closing statement, you can do that. So since Mr. Jefferson went first, he will go last. Ms. George, you have now 2 minutes to address the voters of Lake City.
District 10, how long are you going to wait? We waited 20 years to get some money spent in our district. Our city councilmen drive down our streets, but you have to call and report these potholes. He's in the same community. If he's in the same community driving down the same streets and he's coming to City Hall, he knows what streets needs to be repaved. He knows what potholes need to be filled. He should know what lights are out. How long are you going to wait? 20 more years to make a change? We need a voice at City Hall that's going to fight for us in District 10. Now, Mr. Jefferson may be well-versed in the workings of City Hall. He has 20 years of experience. But experience means nothing if you don't do anything with it. My name is Vanessa George, and I am asking for your vote for City Council, District 10, new voice, new vision. Your vote don't count if your person is not representing you.
Okay, thank you. And now we will allow Mr. Jefferson to make his 2-minute closing statement. Mr. Jefferson?
again, thank you. I do feel as a citizen that I have an obligation to report deficiencies or needs that need to be done or repaired in our community. And I've done that, and I feel that everyone else has that obligation as well, whether they take advantage of it or not. But in reference to it, I just want to quote a few streets that has been paved and overlaid in District 10 during our last, from a period of 2011 through the present. Aggie Street, Montana Street, Broadway, Chestnut Street, Trinity Place, Franklin, Hillsborough, Hernando, Lake DeSoto, Martin Luther King, Veterans, Hamilton, Jenkins, Cooley Way, Lake Drive, Tom Page, Anderson, Denver, Richardson Gym, parking lot. But I won't take total credit for that because it was a joint project between this city and the county. So the city and the county do work together. Catawba Street, Nassau Street, FAMU, Long Street. So I would think that if my opponent lives in the district, out of all these streets, that she would have at least ridden down one of these streets and at least would have seen that there was a change. But you got to be connected to your district to know what's going on, okay? But again, I thank you for this opportunity, Gateway Community College, Lake City Chamber of Commerce, and the Lake City Reporter for this opportunity which have allowed me to go into the homes of the residents of District 10 and Lake Cityans. I'm honored and appreciative of the trust that you have placed in me during the past years to serve as your council representative. And I am appreciative of the past years of support that you have provided me. I am committed and have a desire to continue to serve as your council representative for District 10. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's going to conclude the second segment of our candidate forum this evening. When we come back on Florida Gateway College Television, we'll meet the candidates for Lake City Council District 14. You're watching Florida Gateway College Television. Please don't go away. And welcome back to the third segment and final segment of our Candidate Forum 2018. I'm Mike McKee, the Executive Director of Media and Public Information here at Florida Gateway College, and I'm also the President of the Lake City Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. Tonight's forum is a joint production of the Chamber, the Lake City Reporter, and Florida Gateway College. It's time to meet the candidates for City Council District 14, where incumbent George Ward will not seek re-election. We have with us Ricky Jernigan, Chris Green, and Be Faithful Coker. We drew numbers prior to coming into the studio this evening, and candidate Jernigan drew the number 1, so he will make the first 2-minute opening statement to the voters of District 14. Mr. Jernigan?
Thank you, Mike. Good evening. I would like to begin by thanking the Florida Gateway College, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Lake City Reporter for hosting this event. I'm a proud father of 2 children. I got 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way. I am a United States veteran, and for the past 35 years, I've been employed with the Department of Correction. I also serve on the Third Circuit Grievance Committee out of Live Oak. I'm a lifelong resident of Lake City, which this is the reason why I feel called to serve. My family, friends, and everyone here in Lake City, we have been really close. I visit several homes in my district, and I know what the citizens need. And I can assure you that these issues will be addressed properly. Please continue to support me as your next City Council for District 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jernigan. Mr. Green, you have now 2 minutes to address the voters of District 14.
Thank you, and thank you to the college and the Lake City Reporter for hosting tonight's forum. I'm Chris Green. I'm running for Lake City Council District 14, and tell you a little something about myself. I was born and raised here in Lake City, Florida. Graduated from Columbia High School in 1992, and I've got my bachelor's degree in fire science, and I've got my MBA focused on public administration. I've joined the Air Force shortly after high school. I've served 2 enlistments. I've served all over the world. As a matter of fact, I'm still currently employed with the United States Air Force today. I'm a federal firefighter with the Air Force, and my job is to train the finest men and women that our country has to deploy to places like Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. And so that's what I get to do for a job, and I'm so blessed to do it. I'm running for City Council because we need to improve our economic opportunities here in Lake City. We need to improve our opportunities for our children and our grandchildren, and so I hope to be able to do that, and I hope we get to discuss that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. And now, Ms. Coker, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of District 14.
Hi, my name is Be Faithful Coker. I'm running for the office of City Council for District 14. I am very excited that, again, this year, the college and the Lake City Reporter has taken on the endeavor of educating the citizens about the candidates and giving us an opportunity to speak to you at home. I have 4 children. Michael is 5, Victoria is 12, Andrew is 21, and Mayon she'll be 28 this year. I'm excited about the present situation in Lake City. I think we have a lot of opportunity for growth. I hate that George Ward is leaving us, but in his leaving us, it gives the city an opportunity to select a council member to represent District 14 and provide a different vision, a new vision for to the team. I believe that the experience that I have, coupled between working for corporations, working in the private sector, working in nonprofits, and serving this community of Lake City over the last 10 years, gives me a unique perspective to be able to add a vision to the council that allows us to put families first. We've been very good about creating opportunities for growth here, and I think that growth is awesome. But we're at a pivotal point where the growth, I believe, should be centered on what's best for our families. How do we keep our families safe? How do we provide opportunities for the families to grow, for the family unit to become closer, and for our community to reap the benefits of working together united. So I'm really excited about this opportunity for you all to get to know myself and the other candidates so that you can make an educated decision come August 28th on who should represent us in District 14. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And now it's time to begin the question and answer segment of the broadcast. Again, to ask questions tonight is editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges. Robert?
Okay, Mike, thanks. Mr. Jernigan, we begin with you. What are your thoughts on the current level of fees and taxes imposed on Lake City residents? Is there a way to reduce that burden? Is that an issue that's of pressing concern in your view?
Well, when you talk about money and taxes, that's always a concern for everyone. And most of the constituents in District 14, they live on a fixed income. They're retired, and when you're talking about raising their taxes, of course, that's going to be a concern. There's ways to do it. Instead of trying to do all the taxes at once, slowly would be an educated guess on how to raise taxes. And bringing businesses and bringing opportunities here, it can offset some of those taxes. So therefore, I believe that taxes is always going to be a big concern for the citizens of District 14.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Green, same question.
You know, in 2010, the millage rate for homeowners was about 3.97. That means $3.97. Each homeowner got charged, per $1,000. Now, when the economy was down, the city started to raise taxes from 2010 all the way through to today, 2018. The current millage rate now is 4.9. We're a full point above where we were at. The economy is rebounding. Our property values are rebounding. And so what we have to do is we have to tighten our budget at City Hall, and we have to return the money back to the taxpayers of Lake City. We need to reduce the millage rate back down to where it was. We don't need to raise taxes in Lake City. We need to reduce taxes in Lake City. We need to reduce fees in Lake City. We need to make it easy to do business in Lake City. That's how we're going to attract businesses, not by raising taxes or raising fees over time, slowly. No, the way that we're going to do it is cutting spending, reaching out to small business owners, making it easy for them to do business in Lake City, and that's what I'm running for office for.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Coker, same question for you. What's your take on taxes?
I believe that opportunities to provide citizens with an open view of what's happening by staff through such events as the budget workshops today, the meetings, provide the citizens with an opportunity to hear from the staff. As council members, it's so easy for us, or candidates, or the members, period, it's very easy to get into this notion of telling the public that we're going to do certain things, but in essence, I don't believe that that's the role of City Council. I believe our role is to work together with other council members, taking into consideration the suggestions that the staff that has been hired to perform a job. I believe our role is to question, to vet what they're saying in an open forum so that citizens are able to provide input, and we're able to logically analyze what's being given to us to make a decision based off of. If if those reports, that information provides that there is not a need for taxes to be increased, then I support what the constituents desire. If that information provided demonstrates that there is a need for taxes to be increased, again, I support that. I'm making no promises to citizens that if I'm elected, I'm going to reduce anything. I'm going to provide a forum in which citizens can have access to the same information and the decision-making process that I have. So I am looking forward to the opportunity to ask questions that provide an open view to the public about the decisions that are being made.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll stick with you, please, Ms. Coker, for the next question. When you go door to door in your district, what's the greatest concern, complaint, however you want to phrase it, among voters?
Safety. 2 or 3 on a daily basis concerned about the safety in District 14. But they're open-minded to suggestions such as neighborhood watches to prevent crime. They're very open to the idea of creating opportunities for neighbors to get to know each other so that there's some degree of brotherhood or commitment on the part of other neighbors to ensure that they're paying attention to what's going on. We have a lot of elderly people in District 14, and so it does trouble me as I go from door to door that other neighbors are unaware of the existence of their neighbors in such a manner that they are just familiar with who's in the neighborhood, who lives in certain households. So the households I've visited, their concern is safety.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Green, same question for you. When you go door to door, what are you hearing?
The lack of economic opportunity in Lake City, Florida. The fact that our children go away to college and they don't know if they can come back to Lake City because they feel like maybe they don't have the same economic opportunities in Lake City that they have at other places. My daughter's at college right now. She's making that very decision. And I promise you, if we're having that discussion in our household, there's a lot of families in Lake City who are having that discussion. As I go door to door, everybody I talk to, they want jobs in Lake City. They don't want service jobs or minimum wage jobs. Those are great. But what they want are jobs where their children can buy a home, raise a family, and stay right here in Lake City close to them. And that's why I'm running for City Council for District 14. I want to improve economic opportunities in Lake City.
Thank you. Mr. Jernigan, same question.
Well, I can agree with the two of them. However, the safety and the drainage on the north side, east side, south side, that is a major problem. Whenever we have a rain or a disaster, it's a lot of flooding going on. So we need to send some engineers in here to address that. However, when we talk about safety, we're talking about the police department, roving the different areas, the different zones, and staying out there in the field. Of course, in doing so, that takes money. You want to make sure that you have enough officers to cover a different zone, and to not necessarily to run the users or the abusers out from District 14 to somewhere else, or to run them from the north side to the south side. We just need to take care of all of our citizens, and safety would be my #1 priority if I'm elected to this office.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jernigan, we stick with you. What's your philosophy, and flesh it out if you would, please, on incentives, cash awards or tax breaks to get businesses to come here or expand possibly?
Well, that's always a good sign to get people in. However, you don't want to give out too much incentive to get these people in here, because the people that's in here now, they feel like they've been shortchanged. However, if that's what it takes to get this city up and running, up and going, I don't have a problem with that. But we got to be very, very careful in giving incentives to people just to come here and start a business. Whereas that we got people right here in Lake City can do the business, that same business as well. So I believe that if you're going to do it, we got to be level. We got to level the playing field. Everybody should have that opportunity to get those incentives.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Green, same question for you. What's your philosophy of business incentives?
We need a strategic plan in Lake City that guides what we do to create economic opportunities and to attract businesses in Lake City. That means that in Lake City we need to expand our utilities. We need to improve our infrastructure in Lake City. We need to reduce burdensome fees so that entrepreneurs can start businesses in Lake City. We need to make it easy. We need to be pro-business in Lake City. We don't need to be anti-business. We don't need to put barriers up. Only if we attract new businesses in Lake City will we have the kind of jobs and the kind of opportunities for our children that we're talking about. And we can't go chasing one idea after the next and letting our focus be distracted. We have to make attracting new businesses to Lake City, we have to make that a central part of what we're doing every single day. And that's why I'm running for City Council. I want to attract new businesses to Lake City. I want to reduce fees. I want to make it easy to do business in Lake City, Florida.
Thank you. Ms. Coker, same question for you. What are your thoughts on giving people money to come do business here?
I believe that there should be an exchange of value. Taking money away from taxpayers to give to potential businesses that would be sustained by taxpayers. I don't support decisions that provide cash incentives. I believe there are other forms of incentives that can be provided to help reduce the cost of businesses that are going to create value for our citizens. But that's because my philosophy is families first. So I'm not taking away money from families being able to take care of their children, from families being able to send their children off to school. I don't support that. I do support an exchange of value. You bring us X number of jobs, and in exchange for that, we reduce the regulations and the burdens for businesses to come. But there must be an exchange of value. They must give us something.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll stick with you for the next question. What's your vision of for Lake City, say, in the next 10 years? What do you want the city to look like then? And what do we need to start doing now in order to achieve that vision?
I am very ready to stop having to travel for entertainment. I am ready, as Chris is, and I know Ricky is, for our children that are off in college to return home. So I'm ready for small businesses to begin thriving. We have some very good experiences with some small businesses that have been created in Lake City over the last 2 or 3 years that do remain successful. So I'm satisfied with the amount of research that the businesses are putting in and how they're gauging what the needs of the communities are. I'm ready to see us united, working on future, working together, the city and the county and the school district, to create the type of environment where we grow, we work together, we share off each other's experiences. We've done enough fighting each other, and the opportunity, I believe, in front of us now to prepare for the future is to prepare our children with just solid growth and development and access to education, so that there is a brighter future for them. So I think we're at a pivotal point. This election is a pivotal point. The citizens elect to represent them in District 14. If they choose to elect a negotiator such as myself, I think they're going to see a lot of things get accomplished that need to be accomplished in Lake City. If they choose other candidates, then there'll be a different outcome.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Green, same question for you.
You know, in 10 or 20 years down the road for Lake City, what we need to do is the hard work today to create the vision for the Lake City that we want in 10 to 20 years. And what do I mean by that? I mean make the hard choices today to expand our utilities, make the hard choices today to improve our infrastructure. And if we make those choices right now and we put in place pro-business, pro-growth policies in the city of Lake City, our children and our grandchildren are going to have well-paying jobs in Lake City. But if we continue to do what we've done in the past, we're not going to have those jobs. Businesses are not going to come to Lake City. We have to create a pro-business atmosphere in Lake City. And if we do that, we'll have the kind of community that all of us can be proud of and that all of our children can thrive and raise their families in. And that's why I'm running for City Council.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jernigan, same question for you.
10 years from now, you never know what the future holds. Therefore, what you want to do is you want to stay with technology. Technology is so important in today's society. So you want to make sure that your kids, your grandkids, are well aware of educating our children to make sure that they are prepared for this for this country. Of course, going to school every day, walking to school, catching a bus, you want to make sure that those kids are, when they go, they're going to come back. You want to make sure the teachers, I have a daughter that's a teacher up at the high school. When she goes to that school, I want to make sure and 10 years from now that she goes, she teaches, she works, and she comes home. So that's important that we educate our children, our grandchildren, and for the citizens of District 14. Again, safety in that area for the next 10 years is well needed. Safety is the #1 priority. 10 years, 20 years, you want to make sure that we are definitely taking care of everyone in Lake City. Not only the citizens in District 14, you want to protect the whole county, if you may. So just keep that in mind. Whenever you elect me, I'm always going to be thinking safety for our future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will start with you again, Mr. Jernigan, for the last round of questions. Sir, in your view, is there needless duplication of services between city and county agencies? And if there is, how should that matter be addressed?
You asked me a question about consolidation. Is that where you're going with it?
I'm simply talking about, well, consolidation would be one way to address it, so that's up to you. I'm simply asking if you think there is needless duplication of effort between city and county agencies.
I understand. Well, again, there are some things that the county and the city, they work very, very well together. I can't see why we wouldn't communicate, and we all got a vision for Lake City, Florida. We all, for Columbia County, we all have that vision. So if we could just communicate with each other and just be open-minded for change, for growth, we can get businesses in. We can get opportunities here. However, you want to make sure that when you consolidate, that you're doing it according to the rules, according to the law, and everybody is on board with it. It's what the citizens want in the community. It's not what I want. It's not what Chris wants. It's not what Be Faithful wants. It's what the citizens of Lake City wants. If consolidation is going to save millions of dollars, I think I talked to the sheriff about this one time before. If it's going to save us a lot of money, you have to go in there open-minded and see where that money is going to be saved. So if it is, let's do it. But if it's not, let's stay away from that and make sure that we're still communicating amongst the citizens and the councils and the mayor of Lake City, Florida.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Green, the question is, in your view, is there needless duplication of effort between city and county agencies?
I'll tell you, the way that we stop duplication of effort between the county and the city is to have a tight budget, return money back to the taxpayers, make it hard on your politicians and your elected officials to raise your taxes, make it hard on them to make those decisions where they have to cut the budget. They can't afford duplication of effort. If we do that at the county level and we do that at the city level, the taxpayers of Lake City and Columbia County benefit from that. So that's what we need to do. The way that you root out duplication of effort and the way that you root out waste is by cutting taxes and making it difficult on the politicians to spend money on frivolous projects.
Ms. Coker, last response of the night is yours. What's your thought on whether there's needless duplication of effort?
I believe that.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
I believe that any opportunities for the city and the county to be in open dialogue about the services and that are being provided to the citizens gives us the insight to be able to intelligently answer that question. Do I personally know of areas today where there is a duplication? I do not. I have asked questions when the issue of consolidation come up. I've posed questions to the fire department, to law enforcement, and I walked away with the impression that in those two areas, there is a belief that two different services are being provided. So before I could answer that question, I'd have to be part of some discussions where I was able to see on another level of detail what exactly goes into those services. What is it that the citizens of Lake City require or need, and what is being provided by the different agencies. I think if we were at a point where we could have that type of open communication and dialogue between the city and the county, keeping in mind that the county, Columbia County, comprises of more than just Lake City. So it would have to be inclusive of the other municipalities in Columbia County. And if after those discussions, similar to what Ricky states, there's an opportunity for citizens to be saved money, that information needs to be presented to the citizens of Lake City. And our role as council members is to provide an open forum for them to have the information to make that decision.
All right, candidates, that concludes the question and answer portion of this segment. It's time now for each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement. And since candidate Jernigan went first, he will go last. Candidate Coker, you have 2 minutes to make a closing statement to the voters of District 14.
Again, I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to be able to speak to you, the citizens of Lake City. As I've stated before, I've given you information about my background. I believe that my corporate experience, my experience in the private sector, my experience working with the citizens within our community and on statewide agencies provides me with a unique experience to be able to negotiate, to be able to work with not just citizens, but other agencies. I think I've demonstrated over the last 10 years that I have no problem working with whomever, and that's essentially what we want, what we need. We need elected officials who are proven leaders. I've proven over the last 10 years that my commitment is to the communities and the families of Lake City, be it providing elderly citizens with additional services so that their last years in life are met with some degree of comfort, be it providing families with opportunities for their youth to be enriched with academic activities, be it opportunities for citizens to become aware of what's going on within our community. Culturally, I believe that what District 14 needs is a council member that's going to bring to the table a perception that allows a consideration to be made about what's best for our families, not to focus entirely on business development, not to focus entirely on any issue, but what is needed for our families to thrive, for us to feel safe, for us to enjoy each other, and for us to be a united community. So I'm asking for you to vote for Be Faithful Coker on August 28th. August 18th starts early voting. I'm excited to get to work for you, and I am hoping that you're going to make me your next elected official for District 14.
Thank you very much. Mr. Green, you have now 2 minutes to address the voters of District 14.
Thank you. You know, we've kind of skirted around the issue tonight a little bit. We keep talking about safety, and I just want to get straight to the point about safety. Every day, our first responders, our firefighters, and our Lake City police officers go to work with one goal in mind, and that goal is to protect us and our families. And I'm here to tell you right now that I support our firefighters and Lake City police officers for the job that they do. My family and I thank you for the job that you do. To the voters of Lake City, let me just say this. The choice is clear tonight, and if you think that we need to improve our infrastructure in Lake City, I'm asking for your vote. If you think that we need to expand our utilities in Lake City, I'm asking for your vote. If you think that we need to cut spending in Lake City and return the taxpayers' money back to the taxpayer, I'm asking for your vote. We have to do these things. We have to create a business-friendly Lake City for our children so that they have a Lake City where they can own a home and raise a family. And I can't do it by myself. I need your help. I'm asking for your vote. I'm Chris Green, asking for your vote. Lake City Council District 14. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And our last closing remarks will come from candidate Jernigan. Mr. Jernigan?
Thank you, Mike. There are some major issues in the city at this time. And as your councilman, I would assure you that these issues will be monitored very closely under my leadership. Also, I plan to review all of our resources and our spending. If it takes for us to make money, I'm for it. But if it's for somebody to take money away from us, I'm not against it. I want to reduce unnecessary programs and expenses and rejoice in the American dream. We live in the greatest country on earth, the greatest state and the greatest city, Lake City, Florida. Lake City is the largest municipality between Gainesville, Jacksonville, and Tallahassee. You have to come through Lake City. This means that city council matter, and more importantly, your vote matters. As your councilman, I would make decisions based on the people of my district. Thank you for your time, and it's truly a privilege to sit here before you and humbly ask for your support. Remember, early voting begins August 18th through the 25th, and the official election day is August 28th. When you head to the polls, please remember Ricky Jernigan. Thank you.
And thank you. That'll conclude the candidate forum for tonight. I'd like to thank all the candidates for their attendance and would like to thank our sponsors, Moe's Southwestern Grill, Sonny's Barbecue, Lake City Reporter, and here at the college. Early voting starts on Saturday, as they said, the 18th, with the primary election happening on August 28th. On behalf of the Chamber Government Relations Committee and the Lake City Reporter, for Robert Bridges, I'm Mike McKee. Good night, and please go vote.